Hi everybody, welcome to Dandelion Cottage and Watercolor Wednesday. I'm Leslie Watkins. You can see that the flowers are looking amazing today. So I put together a little spring bouquet. I've got some Wildgelia, I've got some rhododendrons, and they are looking spectacular, by the way. The bluebells are still looking beautiful, but they're a little bit on their way out. I've got some lunaria, and this self-seeds all over, so this pops up and looks very pretty this time of year. And then I've got two early peonies, and these are singles, meaning that they don't have as many petals as those great big full ones, but they are also extremely exquisite. And right now the honeybees are loving them. So I thought it'd be fun today to do a very quick, loose floral watercolor, something that you could use to create a very simple and easy to make note card. And I'm going to show you all the materials that you will need to create this, and it's not a lot, it's just a handful of materials, and you'll be able to do this. And I'm also going to give you a supply list after the video today, so you don't have to write anything down. It'll all be listed and you can just print it out. Also, I have some things to show you here that I'll be using. So I've got some Highland Heather ink, and that is going to coordinate with my, let me find my piece here. Well, I'll get that out in just a second. Here it is. So here is my Highland Heather cardstock, and I thought that looked very pretty with the bouquet. So I cut out a mat for that. And then I've got a couple of card bases here. This is just the basic white. That's a standard size, so it's 4.5 by 5. I have envelopes to match. And I'm using the Fluid 100 watercolor paper, which is something that you can order from my online store along with these other things. And I've pulled out my favorite deckled rectangle dies, and I have this very basic stamp set that has all these wonderful sentiments on it. So happy birthday, thinking of you, just a note, thank you, everything you could possibly want, all in one set. And you can see that there are different scripts for each of those sentiments. And this is just one style of this sort of sentiments. There are many, many, many to choose from. I've got my water painters, which are the brushes that have the reservoir in the handle. Off to the side, I do have some containers of water, like so. And I also have a spritzer. Okay, so to get started, I think I'll do a quick, very loose sketch just to position the different flowers on the paper. Now this is going to be very quick, very loose, very easy to do, not a lot of drawing. Let me just check my settings, make sure that you can see and hear me before we go any further, and that looks great. That looks like it's working. And I'm going to make a little space here to be able to work in. There we go. And I'm just going to put this over to the side where I can see it. And for my watercolor, I'm going to use the full sheet of the 5 by 7 inch watercolor paper, but I'm going to cut out a piece of it. So this is going to be an overall design. So basically the look I'm going for is loose, wet and wet, very fluid, all these magnificent colors. and just have a really pretty kind of a painting that can be used for a variety of things. So I'm going to use it as a card front today, but it could also be used for tags, decorating boxes, just, you know, you name it, all sorts of things. So to begin with, I'm going to grab my pencil, and I want to make sure I get some of these beautiful peonies. So this looks pretty good from this angle, the Weigelia. And I'm going to zoom you in so that you can see a little bit better. There we go. And if you are interested in learning more about the Watercolor Card Club and how you can get a monthly subscription and learn to paint a new subject each month, please go to my website at dandelioncottagedesign.com and you will get all the information there. Additionally, I'm going to be offering some live classes this summer, and I'm very excited about this. This is going to be in-person classes. They're going to be local to where I live in the northwest corner of Connecticut, and open to everyone. So to learn more about that, please subscribe to Notes from Dandelion Cottage. That's my newsletter, and I will have all the information, the schedule, the various topics. There's also going to be paper crafting classes, just way too much to mention here. But you'll also be able to find out how you can take advantage of some early bird specials. So please subscribe to Notes from Dandelion Cottage, and you can also do that at the top of my Facebook page, Dandelion Cottage Design, where it says sign up. And if you're viewing from YouTube, thank you so much. Please subscribe, please like, and there will be a link in the description below that you can just click on. It will take you right to the sign up page so that you can get all the information and be notified ahead of time of what's going to be going on. Alright, so I'm just adding some of these beautiful little buds, which are absolutely gorgeous. They're sort of this deep crimson red, and I can see a little bit on the inside of this peony where there are some gorgeous yellow anthers, and I want to be able to get that beautiful yellow in there. But I'm going to move things around a little bit. So while I have done botanical illustration in the past, which is a very careful drawing and representation of the specific subject that you're looking at, I really fall more into the design category. So what I like to do is combine these, the accuracy along with design. So to that end, I'm going to be moving things around a little bit just to make sure that I get a nice movement of color across the entire page here that I'm working on. So because I'm looking at an actual specimen, it makes it super easy to do that. And I'll also, I'm keeping it simple and loose so that should I decide to make an addition a little bit later, I'll be able to do that, or if I decide to exclude something, I can do that as well. I'm just getting a sampling of some of these beautiful bluebells, and I'm going to turn this a little bit so I can see that rhododendron. And I'm sorry you can't, you can see a little bit of it at the top of the screen there. But I just love the inside of these magnificent flowers with that wonderful, that yellow splotch on the kind of bottom petal. So perfect. Of course, these wonderful anthers, they're so graceful. All right, so I'm going to continue moving this around as needed, but I'm just going to go ahead and splash some color on here because I do want to take advantage of the wet and wet painting as well as the little more careful drawing. And oh, let me get a little bit of green on here. I want to get the green of the leaves represented, and also the Lunaria is beginning to set these wonderful seed pods, which are so tiny right now, but they're those beautiful silvery seed pods that people call the plant the money plant because they look like little sort of iridescent silver coins. So right now they're just in their baby state. They're very tiny, but they're beginning to show their shape a little bit. So that's a fun thing to add. All right, and then I need to get something down towards the bottom here. Maybe some of the blue from the bluebells would be pretty. Just looking for a nice balance and representation of all the various flowers here. All right, well that's looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and get my spritzer. I'm just going to hold this up and give it a good spritz. The watercolor paper is absorbent, so it will absorb a lot of that moisture, and that's what I'm looking for. Let me just move this a little bit so you can see better. And for my paints, I'm just using yellow, red, and blue, so there are my colors. And I'm going to begin by just dropping in a little bit of pink, just sort of let that move around. Both the rhododendron blossom as well as the peony have a very beautiful pale pink quality to them. The rhododendron may be a little bit more towards the edges of the petals, but just lovely. But at Dandelion Cottage, there are two beautiful rhododendrons that grow on either side of the front porch, and I planted those early on so that now, after all these years, they've put in a lot of growth and are quite a good size specimen. And the one that's on the north side of my house, which is the side nearest the driveway, has a robin's nest in it right now, and she's been sitting on those eggs for a while. I think they may be hatching soon if they haven't hatched already. I have not been bothering her. I want to make sure that she stays put. And what I've been doing is I've been getting my binoculars out, and every so often I'll go out on the front porch and focus in on her and see what's going on. I'll keep you posted as to when they hatch. All right, so I'm just dotting some colors around just to get an idea of where the color balance is going to be. I'm not paying any attention to staying inside the lines. It's not about that. It's just about getting a nice fluid layer of color on there just to get things started. And I'm also, while I'm at it, I'm going to get some of these leaves I'm going to start with a pale green at first and add more of the darker as I go along. Same with the seed pods for the seed cases. I'm not sure what the technical term for those are because they are very unusual. And my Weigelia, which is a flowering shrub that has these beautiful rose petals on the flowers right near now, also has a lot of violet, a lot of red violet in its leaves. So I want to pick up some of that beautiful foliage. And let's not forget that beautiful warm inside of the peony here, and also on that beautiful rhododendron petal. So now that I have an idea of the overall layout here, I can begin to fill in some of the places where I'd like to see more. And my paper's starting to dry a little bit over here, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a little spritz. Keep that paint moving. And I'm going to go right off the edges of my paper. The lilacs this year were amazing, but they have pretty well gone by at this stage. There's a couple of flower clusters here and there, but not many. The really big show that's going to be coming up soon is going to be the wonderful peonies. They're only just starting now, and I have a lot of them, so I'm very excited to see how they do this year because there are buds galore. Just indicating those bluebells. Maybe we'll get a little bit up here too. Right, so I'm just sort of adding some color just in splotches that kind of resemble bluebells, but not quite. This could be just a little background accent. And I think a little more leaves here and there. Okay, so now I'm going to begin adding more color, so making things a little more pronounced, but not everywhere, just here and there. I'm going to be leaving plenty of the pale color as well as the white of the paper. But I think you can see how working wet and wet like this allows you to add color and have it move without creating any sharp edges. And that is one of the wonderful things that we like to take advantage of with the watercolors and get that wonderful washy kind of effect. Now I do want to get some strong color here and there. Something like that. And my blue. This is so much fun to do, and if you use, now I'm just, as I mentioned, I'm using a 5x7 piece of paper, but of course you could work much larger, and you could, if you were interested in making a series of note cards, you could just do one great big painting and then cut it down and have all this wonderful hand-painted background for your project with in just a couple of minutes. Okay, now I'm going to turn my bouquet so I can see those peonies again and get some of the characteristics. So of course, inside the peony, we have this beautiful shadowy area. I want to make sure I capture that. Get that started. Now because I'm working wet and wet, I have a pretty wet piece of paper here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my heat tool to hasten the drying a little bit so I can show you the next step. So right now the paper is pretty well saturated, and so I'm not going to be able to do a lot of drawing to get the characteristics of each of the flowers. So for just the moment, I'm going to mute you and run the heat tool on my painting so I can get a little bit drier. It doesn't have to be 100%, but just a little bit. So stay tuned. I'm just going to mute the sound so you don't have to listen to the heat tool. Okay, so that's a little bit drier. It's still damp, but it's dry enough that now if I want to use my brush to do a little bit of drawing on some of these flower shapes, I can start to get some of the characteristics. So for instance, some of these bluebells have these wonderful little points on the ends of their petals. And so I just want to get some of that so that they give the impression of bluebells. And again, this is not careful scientific drawing. It's just a couple of little strokes here and there just to give that impression. Of course, if you'd like to do a much more careful study, you take your painting to whatever level or degree of finish that you choose, and spend as much time with it as you like. Today, I don't want to spend all day on my painting, but just enough to make a very pretty note card. And maybe a couple of other odds and ends, like maybe I'll make some tags while I'm at it, because I think I'll have some leftover pieces that will be perfect for that. So there's my my bluebells coming along. I can do the same thing with some of my leaves. So if I want to add some veins, draw the shape. Come along the edge of the rhododendrons. Add a couple of stems. Just a little more definition, not a lot. Now the Weigelia, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this. I guess you can see that pretty well. The as I mentioned, the leaves have a lot of red in them, and the stems do as well. So if I take some of that green and put a little bit of that red in there, it's going to give me a beautiful dark color that I can use to sketch some of those stems. we go. A little bit up here. Get that. And finally, I'm going to go into my peonies and using a kind of a cool neutral tone. I'm just going to see if I can get some of these wonderful ruffles. So I'm going to begin by picking out a couple of the petals and then just add this wonderful kind of a, I don't know if you can see, but can you see those, all those wonderful pleats on there and the ruffles? So just a little bit of that, just to give an idea. And finally, I think my rhododendron could use a little more attention. It too has these few little pleats. And I definitely want to get the little yellow speckles on that wonderful petal. All right, well, I think that's enough for now. I will bring that bouquet back in at the end so that you can get a better look at it. But right now I want to get my card started. And this is the perfect, actually, you know what? Before I do that, I'm gonna run my heat tool a little bit just again. So I'm just muting. So let me turn the sound down for just a second. Okay. Now my painting is dry enough that I can run it through my cut and emboss machine. And let's see, I'm going to pick a couple of these dies from the deckled rectangle set. My mat measures just a 1/4 of an inch smaller than my card base, so I'm looking for something that's going to fit nicely on the surface of my mat. So let's see, I'm going to try this second one from the biggest, and I think that's going to be perfect, so that's the one I'll use. And next, I'm going to select the portion of the painting that I'd like to feature on my card. So I'd like to get all the colors represented as much as possible, so I can just move my die around, and I could probably get 2 card fronts out of this painting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this as far to the edge as possible so I can have enough room on the other side. Now my other, it's not an even half, so I'm going to go with the slightly smaller shaped die and put those side by side, so I'll get 2 in one swoop. Let's just get that, make sure we get this on the bed securely here. Actually, I think I need to flip this over. It's getting a little bit too bendy. After a while, your plates start to bend a little bit. Just flip them over. They're perfectly fine. Here we go. Okay, here we go, through the machine. So I'm just going to crank this through, get it started. And what that does, it gives me this beautiful deckled edge around my paintings, and I love that. Okay, so let's see how this looks on my mat, and I like that. That looks beautiful. I'm going to save this for something else. And I'm going to use my liquid glue. Now you could sponge the edges if you'd like. I'm going to leave mine simple because I think that the painting speaks for itself. I don't think I need to add a lot of embellishment to this. So I'm just putting a thin line of glue around the edges, get that mounted up, so get that kind of centered on my base mat. Now this is the color I'm using here is called Highland Heather, and there are of course 60 different colors that you can choose from. Is it 60? 50 different colors for you to choose from, so anything that's going to work well with your color scheme is there. And I'm going to go ahead and give that a good burnish with my bone folder. Now here's my card base. I want to decide which way I want this to go. Kind of like it as a horizontal card, so I think I'll do that. That looks nice too. It's hard to choose, so when you do these beautiful loose designs, you really, whatever shape is going to suit your purpose. I want to have a little bit of space where I can put a sentiment, so I think I'm going to go with that orientation. And again, with my glue, just a very thin bead of glue around the edge. You don't need a lot, and you'll be able to make many cards with just a few essential supplies. Again, I will be listing all of those supplies in a separate list, so you can just click on it and it will have the complete list available to you with all the numbers, and take you right into my online shop. So there we go. Now you have a choice. You can add a little tag to the front with your sentiment. I think what I like to do is just stamp a little, just a note or happy birthday. I'm not sure yet how I want to use this note card. Thinking of you would be nice. Let's do a thinking of you. Now I'm just going to get a piece of scrap paper and do a quick test. And that looks beautiful. Make sure my card's right side up. And there we go. Okay, so that I think is a beautiful card to share with somebody, maybe somebody you haven't seen for a while, you've been out of touch with. Let them know that they're in your thoughts. Really easy to do. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that gives you some ideas of how you can combine watercolor with paper crafting, which is what I love to do. Please be sure to sign up for notes from Dandelion Cottage for all of the summer schedule that I have coming up for both online and in-person classes. I'm very excited about it. And also stay tuned for the supply list. Now, if you're just getting started with paper crafting and you like the idea of being able to create a simple card like this, there's actually a very spectacular deal going on right now. It only goes until the end of the month, so that is the 31st. So you've got 2 more days where you can get over $100 in free product and tools to help you get started. So check out the Join tab at Dandelion Cottage Design for much more information, and I will post that in the comments below as well for those of you who want to learn more about that. It's really a spectacular deal. Not only do you get to pick whatever supplies and items that you like, but you also get the new in colors in markers, papers, inks, all for free. All is part of the deal. So check that out. All right, everybody, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll be back tomorrow with Paper Crafting Thursday at 12 noon. Hope to see you then. Stay well, stay happy, stay creative, and I will see you next time.